Welcome to Money Matters on assignment in the Philippines with our special coverage of the 2022 presidential elections. It is election day today, and Ferdinand Marcos is currently in the lead. We take a look at the impact the next president could have on the country's economy. During the pandemic, the Philippines suffered its highest unemployment rate in April 2020 at 17.7%, according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. This means 7.3 million people were unemployed, while the underemployment rate was at 8.9%, or 6.4 million people that month.
I want change for my children and grandchildren. I want them to be able to get jobs and for corruption to end. But we can't get rid of corruption. It's something that's already ingrained in the system. Those who are running for office keep on promising that they will generate jobs and give people houses. But I don't think they can make good on their promises.
Ronald Mendoza, Dean of Ateneo School of Governance, says that improving governance is the only way to get rid of corruption, which he calls leakages, but agrees with Alex that it won't go away.
There's growing concern over the leakages in various ways that public finance is being channeled. In fairness, that has always been there across administrations, and so it is always a reformist challenge to implement good governance, lessen the leakages, and improve effectiveness. And it's never really going to disappear.
As for job creation, he says the next president needs to look at expanding into the fourth economic revolution of technology.
The challenge will then be to navigate the next territory of industries, sectors. One area, of course, is given the fourth industrial revolution, is our upscaling in BPOs, moving into higher value-added sectors, exploring big data analysis and that entire emerging sector there. And then also in terms of automation and its impact on our firms, the efficiency it will bring in, and at the same time the challenges it will bring into our labor force. Obviously, you need to upskill the labor force in order to thrive in that area.
Coco Alquaz of the Makati Business Club says infrastructure and education are key factors to boosting the economy.
In order to create jobs in this country, which is the #1 mission, is infrastructure and really investing in education. Our education wasn't doing well before COVID. Our world-beating closure of Philippine schools or face-to-face schooling obviously didn't do us any favors. Whoever comes in really must invest in education to catch up and then to begin to excel there slowly.
Voter Sandra Tondo says education is one reason she is voting for Marcos.
Marcos will improve the educational system in the country, especially with teachers. Of course, when the teachers are paid well, the children will get a lot of benefits, not just because the teachers are paid well. So many teachers now just go abroad or become caregivers because the pay is too low. So the quality of education here goes down because the good teachers just go abroad. For me, the good teachers should stay here. Marcos mentioned a program where he will improve the salary of the teachers and the education of the teachers.
Stock markets tend to get a boost when a new president comes into office, as there is generally positive anticipation for a new start.
The stock market, aside from being an economic indicator, it's really psychology. Okay? Psychology of people. If people have confidence, it's going to get reflected in the trading in the stock market. If they don't have, it's going to get reflected.
Whether it's BBM or Lenny, every election cycle is good for the Philippines because it strengthens the democratic process. So it's good for business as long as it's credible, as long as it's clean and peaceful.
Data from the Philippine Stock Exchange shows that during the 1992 election period, returns were up 30%, but in the first 6 months after then President Ramos took office, performance dropped to -18%. The presidency of Benigno Aquino III saw a 16% boost during the election, and the PSC was the best performing market in the world during his term. The first 6 months showed a return of 24.6%. In the last 3 months, it's been at negative 3%, but the pandemic needs to be taken into account.
Well, what we were doing okay, of course, until the pandemic hit. And I think, the way it was handled, I guess investors did not react positively to it. The lockdowns, the delay in the vaccines and all that. Of course, these are, these are all, 2020 thing.
Ramon Monzon, president of the Philippine Stock Exchange, says to service the government's debt, new revenue streams are needed and suggests 3 things.
The last 12 years, our agriculture has a very minimal, if any, contribution at all to our GDP. And that's a waste because we have a lot of, we have a lot of agricultural lands. So I think the government should address this. We need to explore for more oil. And I know, well, not I know, but I read that the concessions some of the oil exploration companies have in the West Philippine Sea are very, very promising. But of course, there's some politics or things involved there because, we're having these problems with China. So what will the new government do? Will they prioritize, insisting on that belongs to us? Or do we go to a practical side, say, hey, nobody's benefiting from this. We're not giving up ownership or claim, but maybe we can work on it together.
Ronald agrees. He says that with the Philippines being the second largest archipelago in the world, the country needs to explore how to expand the maritime or blue economy, while maintaining peaceful ties with China.
There are also challenges and opportunities in what we call the blue economy, which is the maritime sector in the Philippines. And you can look at tourism, you can look at pharmaceuticals, you can look at energy, you can look at food production, which is going to be a very big thing.
He says developing this economy also relates to the country's national security issues with China.
It appears that the rhetoric of this administration has been very, very positive and optimistic, but it has not yet been reflected in the actual amounts and quality of investments coming in. The quality, however, has to do with the things that actually improve on our technology access, improve on our skills, enhance our competitiveness in ways that allow us to leapfrog and catch up quickly in growth and also in technology. And the relationship with China can actually provide some of this if there is a way to strengthen that part, notwithstanding the issues we have on the contested territories.
Others express confidence that this can continue given China's economic relations with other Asian countries, despite some similar territorial disputes.
We have to compete with our ASEAN neighbors because in the Philippines, we are identified as more pro-US for the past 100 years. So we have the least business with China. We are the weakest economically in China.
They're our biggest trading partner. In terms of our imports, China is the number one, source of our imports. I think they're number 3 in terms of our export. Obviously, on the economic side, we have no problems dealing with China. Again, you've got to balance this because there's some nationalistic feeling saying, why are we dealing with our enemy? And I hope the people that are responsible can find a way out of this. I don't think it should be a black and white thing. Got to be a middle ground somewhere where it will help both sides.
Increasing the country's competitiveness is key to getting more investment and exports.
We need to see more manufacturing. We need to see more value added being produced by Filipinos. We need to see more investments located in the Philippines.
One of the disincentive for manufacturing to be in the Philippines is the high power costs. So that's something that the new administration has got to address if it wants to attract, foreign investors.
Despite the issues between the Philippines and China, election watchers are confident relations can be improved to the benefit of both. As for the next president, The votes are being counted, and in a day or so, the country will find out if another Marcos comes to power or new blood leads the country. Coming up on Money Matters, how Hong Kong can achieve zero carbon by 2050. Stay with us. Welcome back to Money Matters. The government says Hong Kong can achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. It's encouraging the public to change their lifestyles by buying less clothing and using less electricity. Reporter Alice Khan spoke to people who measure their daily carbon emissions and say it's not that easy.
In Hong Kong, how can you survive without turning on the aircon? I will turn on aircon the whole day.
Hong Kong is so hot. You would definitely turn on the aircon. This will emit carbon dioxide. But this is a habit. We are not living in rural area, right? I have no idea how to cut emission.
Working from home, you would have to use, on a computer, a Zoom, and things like that, all require electricity.
Every day, human activities emit greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, causing global warming. Global warming causes extreme weather. Hong Kong has seen stronger typhoons, and there's been typhoons that occurred in the winter.
In the old days, when typhoon come close to Hong Kong, they would be cooled down by the sea and they would die. But nowadays, the seawater is warmer than before, so they can come closer and closer, even in winter time.
Global warming also disrupts the life cycle of plants.
People are now so used to seeing azalea blossoming in January that they think nothing is happening. But to me, this is a very serious signal from nature. It says that we are warming the atmosphere so much that even the plants are now having problem with dealing with the temperature.
To mitigate climate change, countries have to keep the world average temperature rise within 1.5 degrees Celsius to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, as stated in the Paris Agreement of 2016. The chief executive last year announced the Climate Action Plan 2050, committing Hong Kong to reach carbon neutrality by that year. Per capita carbon emissions here were reduced from the peak level of 6.2 tons in 2014 to 4.5 tons in 2020. The target now is to further cut to 2 to 3 tons in 2035 and to reach neutrality by 2050. Lam Chiu-ying was a former director of the Hong Kong Observatory and also the convener for a sustainability group advising the government on the long-term strategy to reduce carbon emissions. Personally, he's adopted a low-carbon lifestyle.
I will not buy new things. I will not buy new clothes if they are still working. I will have a new shirt only when the collar is really totally destroyed or damaged.
Lam usually walks or travels on public transport. In Hong Kong, buildings consume 90% of electricity and contribute 60% of the city's carbon dioxide emissions. Air conditioning and lighting contribute 30% of Hong Kong's total greenhouse emissions. So he doesn't use the air conditioner.
I consume only 1.5 units of electricity every day. This is much lower than the Hong Kong average, I believe. My home, my monthly electricity bill at the moment is $0.
Sam Kung has also adopted a low-carbon lifestyle. A resident of Apley Chow, he rides the MTR to his office He usually cycles to Aberdeen for his daily shopping.
Other activities, even on riding a bicycle, is a zero-emission form of transportation. Cycling in Hong Kong is not easy. When we are looking at the amount of cycling checks, especially in the urban area in Hong Kong, it is nearly zero. We are all wishing for extra cycling checks. This is critical for promoting zero-emission life.
Despite living a low-carbon lifestyle, Kung still wants to enjoy life.
What I believe, having a low-carbon lifestyle is not necessary that you have to sacrifice your lifestyle.
He bought a boat and takes his family out on the sea on the weekends. In Hong Kong, 18% of carbon emissions comes from transport, including marine transport. So Kung has been paying attention to this issue.
Normally, for me, I spend about 500 liters of fuel per month. And over the year, the longer the boat sitting in the water, you will notice significant fuel consumption increase. It could be 100 liters more, or another 200 liters per month could be possible. Carbon emission, I roughly calculated, will transform to 15 tons per year. That's quite a lot.
He got an expert to examine the boat.
Under the seawater, a lot of microorganisms will attach onto the surface and grow bigger and bigger. That will cause a lot of problems, such as increasing the friction of the boat. This problem generally will cause 30 to 40% more fuel consumption. That means you emit more carbon.
Then Lung got rid of the micro creatures and applied his patented photocatalytic coating on the bottom of Kung's boat. It will stop the creature's growth.
The average saving could be up to 200 to 300 liters of fuel per month, around 5 tons of carbon emission per year.
Kung is also careful in choosing a flat.
Hi, Alice. Please come in. Let me show you my home, which I believe is also a low carbon emission unit.
Then, Mr. Garner, can you explain why do you call this as a low emission unit?
Yes, sure. Now, first of all, when I'm choosing a place to live, I consider this is a northeast facing apartment. It is important that we don't want to get a western facing apartment because there will be a lot of heat from the sunlight, and it is not easy to cool down from an air conditioner and consume a lot of extra energy.
LED ceiling lights cut his emissions.
Mr. Garner, usually kids are really afraid of darkness in the nighttime. Then what do? Would you turn on lots of lights?
Yes, we face this problem. After a few considerations, different try, we have found a solution. Is each one of our children, they will be issued one of these LED lighting as their personal device.
In the evening, I basically just leave it on my bed and turn it off to save batteries. If I need it, then I would take it off of the hanger, and then I would bring it, so it won't be too dark.
Jenny Zhao used to fly to the US and to China frequently. At home, she didn't do anything to reduce her carbon footprint. Her yearly carbon emissions were 9.5 tons, much higher than the average 4.5 tons per person. To absorb this much carbon, it would take a forest the size of 12 soccer pitches. Jenny cut her emissions drastically when her daughter was born 3 years ago.
I want her to be able to grow up, in a world where there's beautiful nature.
Now, Jenny cut her footprint to 3.65 tons of carbon per year. The biggest reason for the cut has been the usage of the air conditioner.
Reducing the number of hours we use it, then we also have a ceiling fan. So the ceiling fan actually helps a lot in terms of circulating indoor air.
Buying second-hand stuff also cuts carbon.
The stroller is second-hand, the tables, these were the playground fences. So all of these I basically got from mommy friends. Right, so all of the toys are, pre-loved. I can show you a little bit of baby closet. So all of these clothes, I would say 90% of them are from the secondhand website.
She can offset 10 to 20 kilograms by buying secondhand clothes. And usually she eats a veggie sandwich at lunch.
We have red bell pepper. This adds a bit of crunch, sweetness, as we have very ripe avocado. If we were to compare this to a, say, roast beef sandwich, then you're looking at maybe 1/30th or 1/50th of the emission. If we're comparing it to a chicken or pork ham sandwich, then maybe you're looking at around 1/10 of reduction.
Jenny cooks food with a higher emission amount at dinner.
Living a low-carbon lifestyle doesn't mean you have to eat salad 3 times a day, but you can actually, there's a lot of tasty, savory options that you can explore. For example, if you want to stick with protein and have some meat, fish and seafood, generally a bit are lower carbon than meat, especially red meat.
What is the carbon emission of these dishes?
So for each of us, say we eat about 1/4 pound or say 200 grams of fish, then if you were to eat, say, steak dinner, which can easily go up to 20-30 kg for just one steak meal.
She uses an app to monitor her daily emissions. The app is linked with her spending. Today, she rode the MTR from Wan Chai to Causeway Bay. The trip was $4.50 or 210 grams of carbon, whereas a taxi or a car would produce 400 grams. Jenny only shops at stores that sell products without packaging.
I'm only paying for what's inside the container, but not the container or the packaging itself, and also reduces waste in the household.
Today, she spent $108 in the shop and generated 2 kilograms of carbon. With the increasing awareness of climate risk, some green businesses have sprung up in Hong Kong, like this second-hand clothing shop.
I think it wasn't until quite recently that customers didn't really understand the full human and environmental toll of their fashion decisions. And I think now that it's coming to light that fashion is such an incredibly large polluting industry, consumers are starting to want to tackle the things in their lives that are having the most negative impact.
As awareness of climate change grows among businesses, more shops that commit to a low-carbon model will help people like Jenny maintain their low-carbon lifestyles.
That's the show. Thanks for watching. Good night.